It has been about 10 days since I made my last video. I'm really sorry for the long delays, but as you know, this whole pandemic is really hampering my motivation, and not just mine, I think everyone's motivation to actually do stuff. I have been getting notes on DeviantArt after the last video if I was alright, and well, frankly speaking, while I am kind of mentally depressed, but my health is fine. Thank you all so much for caring. However, I have not been able to reply to much of those notes because I get a lot of them. So I thought I might as well make a video about my general situation. Before that, in the background you guys are basically seeing a speed paint of me doing a color study. I've been really hooked on doing color study and seeing visible improvement to my color skills, and I think it would be nice if I could make a video on it while talking about my situation in the background. I live in Bangladesh. It's a small country beside India. It has a population of about 180 million people. That's half the population of United States of America, but the total land size of our country is smaller than Texas. So imagine half the people of United States crammed in like half the area of Texas. That's the situation we are in right now, and our country is kind of suffering from crippling poverty too. So there you have it. With all this information, I am sure you guys can imagine that Bangladesh, our country, is not really fit on any level to deal with a pandemic like this. I am lucky. Both my parents are government workers and I live in a research facility type of campus, and entry and exit is really restricted. So there's little chance for me to get the virus. However, my dad does work in a corona specific. He's the director of a hospital that deals with corona patients. So there is a slight chance that he might get it, but that's all up to God, if you ask me. Now back to the situation of my country. To everyone who wants context, our country, like about 40% of the people live below the poverty line. Like they are suffering from crippling poverty and they spend less than $10 a day on their livelihood, on their meals, on their residence, medicine, etc, etc, etc. And most of these people are what we call unskilled laborers. They have not went to school or university or any higher institution. They just work with grit, and they almost always spend what they earn every day on their day-to-day living. That's what I want to say. And so these unskilled laborers, they move from rural areas of Bangladesh to urban areas of Bangladesh, larger cities like Dhaka or Kumilla or Rajshahi, cities like those, and the main purpose is to search for work. They're all from different regions in Bangladesh, and they're called migrant workers. The lockdown has halted all work, and the workers have no source of income, so their best bet is to return to the villages, the rural areas that they have come from. This is creating a migration of millions of people, and there is not enough buses, trains for them to hitch a ride home. Obviously, you know that the government has stopped all kind of transportation services like this. So these migrant workers, they're undertaking an arduous journey back home on foot with their families in Bangladesh's summer heat. This has all come to present a human tragedy. The governments, I can't really blame them. They're helpless. The country is poor. What are they supposed to do? The administrative officers, they're also powerless. They can't really do anything. And all this tragedy, has made the coronavirus spread even more. Every day there are like 150 to 100 people dying, and like 3,000 to 4,000 new people getting diagnosed with the virus. And this coronavirus is not the thing that is killing the most people. The most people die because of hunger and accident. These migrant workers, as I mentioned before, they can't earn any money now. So no money, no food, and their children, their wives, and they themselves are starving to death. When they undertake this journey home, they know which region they come from, but they can't can't really follow the main roads because it's very dangerous. So what they do is they follow along the train tracks back to their own districts. There's a good infrastructure for rails in our country, but what you see hundreds of people going by the train tracks back to their villages, and some of those people, they get tired and they fall asleep on the train tracks. So when there are trains carrying coal or other agricultural commodities, sometimes they don't notice that there is a migrant, because our skin is really dark, you see, like brownish black in Bangladesh. That's the majority of migrant workers, their skin is really dark. They can't really see in the night that there's someone sleeping on the rail track, so they just run them over, and you can imagine the tragedy that's happening. Few countries, I think, in my humble opinion, few countries are structured in the right way to deal with a crisis like this one. Specifically, countries like USA, in some countries like in Europe, Australia, Japan, South Korea, they're good. But countries with extremely large populations crammed into a small land area like Bangladesh, with half the people living under the poverty margin, that's really an impossible task if we want to keep 170 million people supplied for 5 or 6 months without them working and without the economy moving forward. It's really an impossible undertaking. I mean, just imagine, they're called unskilled migrant workers for a reason. They cannot work without moving around because physical grit is all they have. And to let them work and stopping the spread of the disease, that's not going to happen. I'm not well enough about Bangladesh government's infrastructure to give an opinion about their handling of the pandemic. I think they're doing the best they can, but the results have been pretty bad. Well, the sheer magnitude of the population of this country, it's already difficult as hell to even deal with a minor epidemic crisis, and this is a global pandemic. The Prime Minister announced the lockdown in the evening a few months ago in television without giving much grace period or window for people to go home. I think this was one of the problems, but at that time it was already very late to announce the lockdown. They should have done that like 3 months before they actually did it, so I can't really blame them for rushing it either. And then they moved the police force and the military force to enforce the lockdown. I think you guys have seen some memes on television about police in India beating anyone they found outside. Bangladesh's situation is a bit better. I don't think police beat anyone here, but they have been charging fines, and just in general they have been chasing away anyone found outside in that period. So yes, the general situation in our country is pretty damn bad. It's like I'm living in a zombie apocalypse. Every day I look outside. I live in a research campus, and there a few square kilometers, and it's surrounded by a wall. So outside the wall you can see like these hordes of zombies, garment workers, mine workers, agricultural workers. They're just snooping around everywhere looking for work, turning into beggars, and I'm kind of living in a building looking at them from there. It's not something to be happy about, but I can't help but feel really lucky that the position I'm in right now, even if the pandemic lasts like 1 more year, I don't think it will affect my life that much. But every time I think about the people, hundreds of thousands of people dying every day. And then there's the last video. In the last video, I talked about how a friend of mine died to the pandemic. I just want all of this to end faster. So these migrant workers can go back to their work and they don't have to die because of hunger or getting run over by a truck or train or something. That's about it for my general situation. I really hope hope you guys don't mind that I didn't note you guys one by one to talk, but I just made a whole video about it. I think a lot of people would take this as an educational material, and you know what's something that would be really cool, that if you guys can talk about the situation in your country in the comments below. I am really curious how other third world, first world country and second world country, if that is a thing, I don't know, are handling this situation. Are they doing better than us? Most countries are probably doing better than us, but I'm still curious to know how. So once again, thank you guys for listening to my video. If you haven't already, please subscribe and click the bell icon, maybe the like button too. And I'll end this video by saying stay home and stay safe. Peace out.